to be building a white PC build today. For those of you who needs a tutorial or guide on how to build a PC, you can follow along as I go through this video. Here I have with me a B550M Pro 4 motherboard. I picked this up because it has a white silver accent to it. First, I'm going to be placing the CPU in. Open the catch at the side by pressing down and out. Next, you want to look at the CPU pin side up and make sure the arrow on the CPU matches the arrow indent on the CPU slot on the motherboard. I'll be using the AMD stock fan, so I don't need these. You would want to screw in all 4 sides of the fan loosely first, then tighten it. Now it's time for the RAM sticks. Unlock the 2 catches and make sure the pins on the RAM stick corresponds to the RAM slot. Press down on both ends of the RAM stick and you should hear a click. Moving on to the M.2 SSD, unscrew the SSD cover. Do note that some boards doesn't come with the SSD cover or heatsink. You want to position the SSD at an angle and gently push in. Place the heatsink on and screw them back. If yours doesn't come with the SSD cover, don't worry, just screw the SSD in. Now we're pretty much done with the components on the motherboard. Plug the CPU fan wire into the motherboard. There will be a label on the motherboard stating CPU fan. Plug it into those pins right there. Now the case. Put in the I/O shield first. I'm struggling to put in the I/O shield. It should click in on 4 sides and you're good to go. Match up the I/O with the I/O shield you've just placed in. Once that is done, screwing in the motherboard to the case would be a breeze. Time to plug in the wires. First, we'll plug in the case wires. You know the USB ports, audio and microphone port and power button on the case? Yeah, the wires are for that. Plug in the USB wire to the motherboard. Next, plug in the wire labeled HD audio into the motherboard. Now there's these tiny single wires. Those plug into the 9 pin on the motherboard. There are positive and negative sides, so make sure you plug it in right. Some motherboards have labels on them to tell you the positive and negative. If your motherboard doesn't have this info, you can always find them in the manual that comes with your motherboard. Time for aesthetics. I picked up some white sleeved cables just because they look dope. These flex cables are from Tecware. It comes with cable combs, a power cable, CPU cable and 2 GPU cable. Plug in the USB cable and SATA SSD cable, if you do use one, into the motherboard. My motherboard doesn't come with built-in Wi-Fi, hence I will need to plug in a Wi-Fi card. The moment we've all been waiting for, plugging in the graphics card. Unlock the catch and push in the graphics card. You should hear a click. I have with me a fully modular power supply unit. Plug in the cable for the power supply. Next, plug in the cable for CPU and PCIe. And lastly, plug in the cable for SATA, which is for the case fans and for the SATA SSD.